I'm Nick, and one of the questions I get quite often is, what type of PC would you build yourself? And what type of hardware would you use if you wanted to build a new PC for yourself? That is a little bit of an interesting question because for me personally, I have some very, very unique use cases for things. And the reality of it is, I don't need a gaming PC. I don't need an editing PC because I already have every type of PC that I need to get everything that I do done. If I was to build myself a PC, it would have to be unique and it would have to be used for a task for a computer that I don't already have hardware for. And that's what all of this is. This is possibly the strangest PC build you're ever going to see because this is a PC that does fulfill that requirement that I've needed for a long time. And to be honest, guys, I've been putting this one off for a long time. I can already tell you there's going to be lots of comments from people saying, why did you use that? Why do you have an optical drive? Why wouldn't you just use this, that, or the other? The truth is, I don't care. This is what I want. Let's build.
This video is brought to you by Gigabyte and their new MO27Q28G monitor. Featuring a 27-inch 1440p WOLED panel, this monitor delivers deep blacks and incredible color accuracy. With an ultra-fast 0.03 millisecond response time and a peak brightness of 1500 nits, your games and videos will look incredible in any lighting. Perfect for creators and gamers, the MO27Q28G offers an insane 280Hz refresh rate and an ergonomic, fully adjustable stand. Experience next level visuals and performance. Upgrade with the Gigabyte MO27Q28G. Link in the description to find out more. Back to you, Nick.
First of all, this is the part of the video where I have to try and justify why I choose hardware because every time I do something for myself, people were like, why don't you do it another way? And again, the answer is because this is what I want to do, and it's really weird, and my use case is very strange. So first of all, we'll start off with the CPU because this is the most important part of the system, I suppose. I'm going for the AMD Ryzen 5 9600. I bought this one a little while ago. I did a PC build with it where I kind of showed like if you were to build a gaming PC, that this is actually a pretty good option, although it's kind of not available everywhere in the world, which I think is strange. But anyway, the Ryzen 5 9600, it's a 6-core, 12-threaded CPU, 65 watts. I like low-powered hardware. It's kind of why I like mini PCs. And no, a mini PC can't do all of this. This is why I'm building this in the first place. Next up is the motherboard. This is an interesting one. We covered this motherboard a little while ago, and I thought it was really interesting because it has so many USB ports on it, and it's got a whole stack of PCIe slots on it. And when I did that video, I was like, hey, this is kind of like a tinkerer's dream board. And yeah, that's exactly what I'm using it for, tinkering. This whole PC is designed for tinkering. This is the ASRock X870 Live Mixer Wi-Fi, and I'll need to update the BIOS because, you know, I'm scared. But yeah, I don't have an X3D chip, so it should be fine. It's just a nice looking board too. And to be honest, it's not over the top, and I'll probably be using Wi-Fi for this system. Even though it's got 5 gigabit Ethernet, I kind of want to use Wi-Fi, even though, as you can already probably tell, this is rack mounted, which leads us into the case of choice. This is something I'm an art about for a long time because, as you guys may or may not know, if you're new here,
welcome, I'm Nick, this is Gear Seekers, and all my personal computers are rack mounted.
This is the Silverstone RM23502, not the mini version. This is the full depth version because it supports ATX motherboards. I went out and bought this one last week. I had this sitting in my cart for ages, and I had the mini, to be honest, sitting in my cart for ages. And then I was like, oh, what really is the difference between the depth of the ATX version? And it wasn't that much. And I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna kind of lock myself into using an M-ATX board if I don't need to. So let's just go for a 2U enclosure that I can put a full ATX board in. The other reason is it has 5¼ inch drive bays up the front, which leads me into one of the strangest bits of hardware that maybe you don't really care about it, but for me, I already talked about this. I'm a retro enthusiast and I could emulate an optical drive or do any of that stuff in my retro systems, but I don't want to. I like having the option to burn discs, so I've just got this LG DVD writer This one is interesting because I have about 60 optical drives, all IDE or SATA, like just heaps and heaps and heaps of them, like boxes of them. I have a Blu-ray writer around here somewhere, I couldn't find it. It's also an HD DVD drive, which I thought was cool. But this one has a manufacture date of August 2017. I think this is probably the newest optical drive that I own, so yeah, I guess we're going with that because it's the newest one and it probably won't die, probably. Going back to this case, yeah, it's got the 5 1/4 inch drive bays. There was something else I wanted to do with this build that was just gonna cost too much money, but given I don't know how long it's gonna take to make this video or when this is gonna come out, it may just be added to the system at some point. But anyway, this case has pretty decent cooling, if I'm being honest, for a 2U enclosure. It's got 3 80mm fan mount attachments in it, and I decided to put these FN80 Silverstone fans. These are about 10 bucks each here in Australia. So when I bought the case for 169 bucks the other day, I was like, hey, I probably need some other 80mm fans, and I didn't have any spare ones that were quiet, so I bought these. I just used a bunch of these in our new storage server. I'll put a link to that down below if you haven't seen it. These are great, these are really cheap, and they're very, very quiet. As well as that, I had a 60mm Noctua fan banging around from some other random project that I'm always doing, and there's a 60mm fan mount in the back, so I'm gonna chuck that in the back. The keynote out there may have already seen, there's a graphics card here. Well, obviously this is a tinkering computer. I need graphics, but my operating system of choice for tinkering is always some flavor of a Linux distribution, which is why I decided for one of the graphics cards, yep, that's right, there's 2 graphics cards. This is such a weird PC, don't ask. I'm using the AMD Radeon Pro 6400. The reason is this card is PCIe Gen 4x4. Look at the contacts on this edge connector. There's almost none of them there. And it's low profile because it's 2U. So everything needs to be low profile, which leads us into one of the cooler bits of kit for this. Well, not the cooler, we'll come back to that. But the coolest thing for me personally is the primary graphics card, and that is this. We saw this at Computex. In fact, I didn't really talk about it because I forgot that it was there. This is the 5060 low profile. I haven't even opened this yet, so we're gonna do this together. This is a really, really tiny, low profile 5060. I'm gonna have to change the bracket. I'm pretty sure, yeah, there it is, it comes with the bracket. Look, honestly, never even opened it. We're breaking the seal together, guys. Oh, I forgot how. Cool. Right, this is a 5060 with one really cool feature. It comes with a low profile bracket. See that thing right on the end right there? You see that? You see that thing right there on the end? You see it? You see that right there? Yeah, that's a PCIe power connector. Notice how it's not sticking out the top? Because this is designed for low profile systems, right? So you plug the power cable in this side and it doesn't interfere with anything. So for a 2U system, chef's kiss, absolutely gorgeous. I do have the 4060 version of this, but I'm like, you know what? Man, you're building a PC for yourself, treat yourself. So I'm using the 5060. My original plan was for this build to put 2 NVMe M.2 drive mobile rack enclosure things in the 5 1/4 inch drive bay, but they're very hard to get here in Australia and they're very expensive. So I had to weigh up like, oh, I don't know when I want to make this video. I don't know like when I want to use this system. Well, the truth is I want to use it straight away because I'm very excited for this one right here. But I'm going overseas soon and I don't want to like buy something and then it ships and then I'm not here and then it becomes like a whole thing where I'm chasing a package around trying to get it. So I decided not to do that now. I did email a reseller out here to see if they had them in stock because I wanted to buy one today. So I haven't heard back from them. Maybe we'll just check my email real quick because if they have it, I'll be able to pick it up today. But that thing costs, well, they haven't emailed me back, but that thing costs like 250 bucks and then you have to adapt it. It ends up being about 300 Aussie bucks just to put 2 NVMe drives in the front of your system. That costs more than the case itself. Which is maybe why I won't do it. But I do have 2 M.2 drives. There's one that's a 2 terabyte drive, there's one that's a 1 terabyte drive. One's a Team Group one, one's a Crucial one. These are just two that I had laying around. Yeah, I know, what a problem to have, having M.2 drives laying around. Well, you know what, I'm treating myself today, guys. I don't care, I never get to build myself my own computers, right? I've got this Noctua cooler, it's one of the low profile ones. I have this one kind of laying around for testing, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna use it on my own thing because, yeah, it's sitting on the shelf in my office. And then power supply, yeah, RM1000X Corsair. I was thinking of using an SFX power supply for this, but this case is pretty good with how it supports normal ATX power supplies, and it's 1000 watts. And the whole thing of this video is, hey bro, treat yourself. So I'm treating myself to that. That's 12 minutes of me absolutely ranting about all of the stuff, and I didn't even talk about the RAM because at this point in time, I haven't picked any. I have a 48 gig kit I'm probably gonna use, but who knows at this point? I don't know what RAM I'm gonna use, but yeah, I'll just grab something off the pile and I'll probably change it at a later date if I need to use the RAM. But you know what? Let's pick the RAM together. All right, you guys ready for some Gearseekers BTS? Right, here we go. This is my RAM drawer. It's got like a little motion sensor light. They're all in like these RAM trays. Let's see. I did see something cool here before. Where did I put it? Oh yes, maybe that's what we'll go for. These ones here. This is a 48 gig kit of T-Force Extreme. I think I'm gonna go for that because it doesn't have RGB, and I really, really dislike RGB. Would you guys use 48 gigs of RAM, even though it's like a weird size for everything? This is also an 8000 mega transfer kit. This is stupid. I'm doing it anyway. Oh yeah, I probably want to put 128 gigs of RAM in this one, to be honest, but 48 gigs is a weird number, and I don't know, this video is just weird, and people will have opinions, but I don't care. But I kind of do care. I guess everyone kind of cares about opinions, right? But you guys respect me enough to, well, I don't know if that's true. All right, yeah, I guess we should start building. What I'm gonna do here is remove the factory mounting for the cooler because I'm not gonna be using that. And yeah, I don't know. I'm not gonna be using it, don't judge me. I should put the CPU in first, but I'm not going to because I don't want to. If you've never seen this process before, this one is pretty simple. Basically just remove them and never use them again, but keep them safe just in case you need them for a different cooler, because it does happen. And I often see comments with people complaining that they lost them. Sorry, but just keep them. All right, let's install the CPU. This one's pretty easy. I don't know why I'm gonna show you guys this. Most of the people that watch this channel are enthusiasts and know exactly what they're doing, but basically you wanna push this arm down, lift it up, open up the socket, grab your CPU. It only goes in one way, and then you want to drop the CPU into the left socket, give it a little bit of a shake and a wiggle and a rattle and roll, and don't roll it because you break something, and close the lid of the socket, and then you go like that. And then yay, we have a CPU installed. We're going to install a cooler, and now I'm going to say some words, and you're going to obey all of my commands. Yeah, oh well, you know. That's what we do. Cool, let's talk about thermal paste application, because you know, it's still for some reason such a popular subject on the internet of how to do it the right way. But here's how I would tell you to do it the right way. And yeah, someone's gonna get mad at the way that I'm gonna show you, but here's the truth, it doesn't matter. So yeah, look at that. It's a really, really bad smiley face. That's the worst smiley face I think I've ever seen. Maybe I'll give it a little bit of a nose too. Oh look, I ruined the face. Oh no. Oh no, I have to redo it all. No, you don't. That's fine, that'll work. You know the funniest thing about this, if I was to put a clear piece of Perspex on that, it'd show perfect coverage. Because the internet loves to turn everything into drama, but the truth is, ready for it guys? The magic of thermal paste application. If you put too little, it's going to be a problem. If it's too much, it's fine, right? That's the magic of thermal paste. How do I know this? I've been doing this for a long, long time. Installing this cooler is really easy. Maybe it's not easy. I don't really know. We'll find out together. Actually, I've done this a million times. What you want to do is just drop the cooler on, kind of line it up, and we're going to give it the old flip. Yeah, does this make sense to you, lovely people? And then we feed these screws in through the back, and you'll be able to feel it go in. As any good thing in the world, it does feel good once it goes into that hole. And then this is what I always do. I do it in like a diagonal pattern when I'm fastening it, kind of finger tighten it first. This is a weird one with this Noctua cooler because the back plate is kind of the mounting plate, but you don't install any other mounting gear. It just goes straight through, and then I use a little screwdriver. It does come with tools to do this. I'm just doing it this way because fasten it up until it stops, don't over tighten it, otherwise you'll hate your life and you'll never be able to undo it again. We flip it over, watch, look, it's levitating. Whoa, the cooler's installed? How did you do that, Nick? I did it just the way that I showed with the screws and the mounting. That's how that works. Next, we're going to install the memory. This is called RAM, not RAMS. That's Registered Australian Mortgage Security. But it's not called RAMS, it's called RAM, right? The word RAM is already a plural. Basically, you want to line it up with these slots here and just drop it in, you know, like Skrillex, I suppose. Like just line it up, make sure it's in. Grab both ends like that and then push down. You'll hear this. Ready? Ooh. Ooh. Why does it keep making that sound? That's weird. As I was installing the SSDs here, it was getting to the point where I figured that the video was probably going for too long. And you know what they say about YouTube and watch times and algorithms and retention and all that stuff? Well, I don't, obviously. Forgot to mention that I ordered the rack rails for this. They were like 115 Aussie dollars plus like 10 bucks shipping, whatever it was. And they will be arriving probably tomorrow. So maybe the rails will be in this video too. I don't know. But I'm excited because I love rack mount computing. Ah! Yeah, I love rack mount computing. I say that as I smash my hands on something. I haven't even opened this yet. It's so weird. Usually I would have already started tinkering with something like this, but I haven't. Ooh, let's look at that unnecessary amount of sliding. Sick. This is the forbidden candy. Don't eat that stuff. It'll probably kill you. Look at it, it's so tasty. Don't eat it. We have a manual, I suppose, for the manual of the how to do things. We're not going to use that at all. We've built enough computers around here to do this because I am the guy doing the things. I did a whole thing where I talked about installing fans and how I was going to do cable management, and then I decided not to talk anymore and just build the system. This system took me about 20 minutes to assemble and cable manage. The final result that you're seeing here isn't the cable managed version, it's just me trying to put it together as quickly as possible, just to show you that even if you didn't want to build a really nice looking computer inside, that it would still not look terrible if you didn't focus on cable management. I suppose that was kind of the point of what I was going for when I was talking through building it, but 22 minutes is just too long to sit around and talk about building a PC unless you're into that kind of thing, which I suppose you're probably not, because at this point of the video, I still haven't really said that much. Alrighty, it's the next day and I've finished building it, obviously. Here, take a look. I did all of the cable management. It's very, very nice. The system works. It's dual booted with 2 operating systems. I've got Debian 13 as well as Windows 11 on it, just because I use both of those operating systems for tinkering with things and all of that jazz. The rack rails just arrived. Let's show you how to mount them. These are super easy to do. These are kind of universal, but kind of not. They line up with these little knobs along the edge of the case. Basically just push them in, line them up, and then, listen, click it in, and you do that on the other side, and then you can chuck it in the rack, provided you put the rails in the rack. All right, friends, let's load this into the rack for the first time. This one should be relatively easy. These have rail guides on them that should make it easier to guide it into place. And that's it. Look at that. levitating computer. Ooh, that is a tight fit. Oh, that's gorgeous. I love that. The truth is I had to make one modification to the rack before doing all of this. I didn't do that on camera. I had to make the rack deeper, and because my rack is adjustable depth, I just pulled out 16 bolts and made the whole thing deeper. All right, moment of truth. First power on in the rack. And there we go. Look at this, guys. Look at that optical drive bay. How good's that? Welcome to the 90s. This video is kind of filmed in a bit of a strange order, if I'm being honest. The real purpose of this computer is for me to pick up on some projects that I was working on before over on GitHub, on the Gearseekers GitHub, and I really just didn't have a system where I could turn it on, sit down, and just hack away at some lines of code, because I just don't have anything that can do it. Having a system where I can quickly switch between Windows and Linux and just tinker around with a few other little outstanding bits that I've got that I'm working on, it's just nice to finally have something that has all of the expandability I need and sits in the rack where I don't really have to look at it. I just turn it on and it will be able to do the thing. The truth is, this is already configured. I got it all up and running yesterday. Once I'd finished building it and cable managing it, I just started to dive in, and I didn't put it in the rack at that point in time because the rack rails hadn't arrived. They arrived earlier today, as I already showed when I put the rails on this thing. And yeah, I really, really like this computer. It is strange. It's got 2 graphics cards. And the main reason for that is the primary graphics card, even though the NVIDIA card is in the top slot, the main card I'm actually using is that Radeon Pro card because AMD cards in Linux are just better in general. And I'm using a thing called Looking Glass where it runs a virtual machine and then it kind of passes the GPU through to the virtual machine, and then you don't need a mouse and a keyboard for the GPU pass-through with Looking Glass. It's a cool little project. I'll link to it down below if you want to see how it works. But yeah, that's basically what I'm using it for, to run Windows programs that I need when I'm doing some Linux things, so I can basically not really even need to ever dual boot this thing. Let me know if you guys have a PC kind of like this, not rack mounted of course, but just like a computer you tinker around and try and break stuff and fix stuff that's not particularly important when it comes to the configuration and that stuff. I usually do, but I haven't for years. I was using the MS-01 a little bit for this, and I had like a test bench system, but to be honest, I don't like stuff laying all over my office. I just want to have something in the rack that even if I need to change something, it's rack mounted. I just slide it out, I pop the lid off, and then it's easy just to change something really quickly. These type of systems for me are, again, like I've said a million times in our videos, utilitarian. And that's really how I use my own computers. I have one computer for each major task. So I've got an editing PC, a gaming PC, and now this is my tinkering PC. And to be honest, I've kind of always been like that. Even before YouTube, I always had a computer that I would use that I just really didn't care about the configuration and that I could pull stuff out and just mess around with, because that's what computing's all about, right? It's about learning. And for me, it's now about learning new stuff and showing you guys how all of that stuff works. I'm pretty excited about this because I never build PCs for myself. It's just unheard of for me. And having the optical drive now for when I'm like needing to burn CDs and DVDs for all the retro stuff that I play around with too is just really cool. I don't need a USB DVD writer. I don't need to pull a computer out of the closet because I need to burn a disk. I don't need to use the studio PC with a USB drive connected to that. I can just turn around, put a blank disk in this drive, and away we go. Yeah. I'm excited. I'm so keen. Yay! New computer for me. Don't forget to peel the plastic on your rack mounted cases either, because this power supply needs to breathe. Thanks for watching.